Is Ronald Jones a league winner for these next couple of weeks? That and much, much more on today's episode of the Football Guys Mailbag Show. I am Victoria Geary, joined by my co-host T. King Mo Troy King. Troy, what are you thinking about Ronald Jones this week? Is he a league winner?
You know what's crazy is that Ronald Jones might be a league winner, y'all. It's crazy to think about, right? Because he's been such a disappointment. There have been so many stands that had, been hyping up Ronald Jones forever, always had that hope, but he just never performed. And it's not always his fault. He's always looked good as a runner, right? But the only problem is he can't catch, he couldn't catch, and he fumbled. So he always go in the doghouse, and we never got, Bruce Arians just hated him. But now he finally has the opportunity with Leonard Fournette injured, what looks like for the rest of the season, that he's going to get the bulk of the carries. And Le'Veon Bell, we know they just signed him, but he just got to the team. He's probably going to play that third down role, but we know the majority of carries are going to go to Ronald Jones. And obviously they got Keyshawn Vaughn. He ain't a thing, y'all. We ain't got to worry about Keyshawn Vaughn, right? Unless there's another injury, he's not relevant. But Ronald Jones, and I know like in his absences, like when Ronald Jones has had the ability to start, he's been a workhorse in that scenario. So like we've seen him with like players injured ahead of him. He's had, 20 plus carries multiple times in his career. So I'm really excited. I think he's going to be a league winner. What about you? What you think about it?
At first, I was thinking to myself, I saw this question from Tanner Carter. I'm like, I don't know here. But then I looked into the stats. So Mike Clay tweeted today, Ronald Jones in 4 games that Leonard Fournette has missed last season. He had 128 yards, 125 yards, 121 yards and 2 touchdowns, 84 yards and 1 touchdown. Never had less than 19 carries in any of those games. So he has been awesome filling in for Leonard Fournette. So he's got Carolina this week. They were a pretty stingy rushing defense at the beginning of the year. They're middle of the pack since about week 9 or 10. And we just saw Devin Singletary, yes, a Buffalo Bills running back, had 22 carries, 86 yards, and 1 touchdown last week against Carolina, 16.5 PPR points. That's a Buffalo Bills running back, people. We don't see that.
Oof, you don't see that. Oof, that was ridiculous.
Troy knows, we know.
And I don't understand though, because they're normally, I don't know, I don't get it. But you're the Buffalo Bills fan, so I'll let you rant about them.
It was wacky to see. I mean, I'm really happy. Obviously, we got the win, but seeing Singletary, especially Singletary, being the one gashing them kind of. But then not only Carolina this week, then Ronald Jones gets the Jets in your championship matchup. Like
league winner,
of
y'all.
course, he could very well be your league winner. And it's already been confirmed, right, that Fournette's out for the rest of the regular season.
It looks like he's very doubtful. I've seen multiple reports that say he's most likely out for the rest of the regular season. Yeah. It's Ronald Jones' time.
Man, so make sure if you're in ESPN leagues, those waivers aren't running likely until tonight. So you still have your shots.
And Yahoo leagues, same thing.
Yes, absolutely. Awesome. So thank you guys so much for tuning into another episode of the Football Guys Mailbag Show. Just a reminder, you can send all of your questions into mailbag@footballguys.com for myself, Dave, and Troy to go over, and we bring the show to you every single week. Every Wednesday at 7:30 Eastern normally. We're doing a little bit earlier tonight, but we'll start off by answering submitted questions, but you can drop your questions live in the comments on YouTube, and Troy and I are going to get to those at the end of the show, so make sure you're submitting those questions. And be sure to subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/footballguys.com to see the show, the Audible, DFS Power Grid, all of our wonderful Football Guys shows that we have to offer are there. Troy, will you do our ad read today?
Absolutely. So, y'all, if you love fantasy football, then listen up. You have to join this NFL season's hottest and easiest daily contest. You can flex on the competition in FanUp's daily flex ball contest to win cash and the hottest brand prizes. It combines the best of redraft and best ball formats. There's no salary caps, drafts, waivers. FanUp allows you to pick a new team daily and stack your roster however you like. You could take on your friends every week, so sign up right now. Enter Thursday night football, Sunday games, and Monday night football each week to win Fan Up bonus prizes from Fanatics. Download the Fan Up app now in Apple's App Store or go to the fanup.app. Just be fans.
That's right, fan up. Let's go. So let's get into the rest of our questions here. We've got one from our friend of the show, Dave Kluge. Just kidding, he is the host of our show. He says Ronald Jones, who we just spoke about, at Carolina, or Aaron Jones versus Cleveland. Battle of the Joneses. Troy, who are you going here? This is kind of tough on the surface.
Look, give me Ronald Jones. It sounds kind of crazy, but give me Ronald Jones. Look, I wouldn't be surprised if Ronald Jones is. I definitely think he's going to be RB1, but how high? I think it's a little bit tough, right? But I'll say he's probably going to finish like RB8, RB9 somewhere around there. But yeah, Aaron Jones. I love Aaron Jones. The problem is that we've seen some inconsistency with him, right? And it's like, and we've seen AJ Dillon, he's been carving out a bigger role in this offense. So, and there's a lot of times as well near the goal line, Aaron Rodgers, he likes to pass the ball sometimes. So that worries me a little bit. And I know what's up, Dave, but then I know that there's a similar scenario sometimes with the Bucks. They like to be pass happy when they get close to the end zone too. But I just think the volume is going to be more on Ronald Jones's side, especially with all the receivers banged up. But for the Bucks, the only healthy options are going to be, AB and Gronk. So I feel like because of that as well, I think it's going to be more of a Ronald Jones game. So give me Ronald Jones.
Absolutely. I am also willing to take a shot on him. It sounds crazy. As you've already mentioned, though, Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon, they've had a kind of an even split in the last few games, dead even in some of them. And Jones, a little bit of a concern, Aaron Jones, a concern, had only 5 carries a couple weeks back.
Yeah.
He had 2 touchdowns, so he salvaged his fantasy day, just fine with about 21 fantasy points. But he's had that split consistently with Dillon in these last couple weeks. So this is really close for me. I'm willing to take a shot on Ronald Jones. As long as he protects the football and does not fumble, he's not going to be in the doghouse. That's the only concern. We've seen Jones make a mistake, and Bruce Arians, head coach, kind of puts him on the bench and gives another guy a shot. But as we mentioned, who are his other options? Keyshawn Vaughn, Le'Veon Bell was just signed off the street. I'm not sure if he trusts those 2 guys over his guy Rojo, even if he does make a mistake. So Cleveland for Aaron Jones, giving up the 13th fewest points per game to running backs. Carolina is right in the middle of the pack, 15th. So it's really, really close. But the volume is probably going to be with Rojo. So,
yeah, and with Aaron Jones, we've seen him. Again, we know that Aaron Jones is a much better receiver than Ronald Jones. So there's an argument there. But like last week, he only got 2 targets. The week before, he only got 3 targets. The week 12, he only got 1 target. So his targets haven't gone down too. So it's like, again, Aaron Jones is great, but there's been some inconsistencies, and he definitely worries me a little bit. Again, you're still starting him, but comparing these two, I'm going Ronald Jones.
Love it. All right, our next question is from Sam P. This is tough. Is Russell Wilson startable in the playoffs anymore?
Goodness gracious. It's crazy because here's the thing. Russell Wilson, we do know, we've had a history of Russell Wilson, right? Russell Wilson, for some reason, is terrible in December. And he's been like that pretty much all his career. I don't know why, but he has been. So, he's been less than great, right? So last week, let's start off last week, right? He got you about 22 fantasy points, right? So he had 2 touchdowns. He looked okay. The week before that, he also had about 2 touchdowns. And it's like, so he's looked decent. Like he's looked okay, but he's not looking Russell Wilson levels, right? And I don't know if it's a finger. I don't know what's going on with him. But obviously against the Rams, He did it. He didn't do anything. He got you an interception, only threw for 156 yards. He looked terrible. So again, if it's super flex, if you're in a super flex league, you want to use him as a QB2, fine. Like, yeah. But in one QB leagues, I rather if I do not want to play him. I'm sorry. Like, I get it. Like, most likely there's not that many great options. Like, again, I need to look at the rostership of like someone like Tua, for example, but I much
Mhm.
rather play Tua over Russell Wilson. But again, it's gross because there's a lot of in the quarterback landscape in general. There's been a lot of up and downs, right? We just saw Kyler Murray just have a dud too, but
Wild.
yeah, I would say in Superflex, I feel much more comfortable playing him, but it really just depends on your options, right? If you're in the semifinals, so if you made it to this week, right, and you still have Russell Wilson on your team, again, I don't know what waivers look like, but if you could find a better option, do it. But I think he's an okay start in one QB leagues, and he is startable as Superflex.
So he draws Chicago this week. Not a terrible matchup, but he's just not looked right. Like you said, he has this history of really kind of going on the downslope in the second half of the season. We've seen that before, but this is extreme. I'm not sure if they rushed him back too soon with the finger injury. Him and DK Metcalf are completely off. You saw the frustration on the sideline from this past game. If Lockett is still out for any reason on the COVID list, like, I just would really shy away from starting Russell and look to pivot. Would you pivot to Justin Fields on the other side of the ball? They're playing Chicago. Fields struggled against Minnesota, which was one of the worst passing defenses in the league, but he kind of turned it on there at the end.
That's a really good question. Uh, I would say that for Justin Fields, maybe. I think the problem with Justin Fields is that we've seen he's also been someone that's been very inconsistent. Like, thank goodness he got that last second touchdown in the last week,
Oh my
because if he
gosh.
didn't get that, his numbers would be ugly.
Last second, you mean last
Like the last zeros,
0.1.
yeah, 0.000, yeah. So we got lucky. If he didn't have that, the numbers would be horrible. So I don't like either of them. I mean, obviously Justin Fields has, I guess, the better matchup, but I don't know if I want to be relying on Justin Fields in the playoffs. I just
Yeah.
don't. I think I might just go Russell Wilson there. Just I think Justin Fields has a great career and he's had some games, but I do not want to put my almost championship team on the Justin Fields back. I'm sorry, y'all. I don't trust the Bears like that. So just give me Russell in that scenario.
It does feel gross. And it's not so much maybe that we don't trust Fields, but Matt Nagy is a problem.
Oh
And
my
we
God.
we
This
know
is
this.
this again. I hope he enjoyed the season because it's his last one.
Oh my gosh. I can't believe he didn't get fired after that game. So I'm looking here too. I'm like, Jimmy Garoppolo, I'd probably at Tennessee. I'd
Oh, give
probably
me
play
Jimmy G. I think I'd rather play Jimmy G.
Right. He doesn't have that ceiling, but he's going to give you a safer floor, especially against Tennessee's passing defense. I mean, Big Ben at KC, I think I'd still take Russ, as gross
Big Ben
as
has been last game he didn't do great, but
yeah.
the past like 3 weeks before that, Big Ben was actually doing pretty well. But he's also somebody I don't really want to trust in my. I'm right next to the championship, man. I just don't know if I could trust Big Ben. I'm like, yo, I'm so close. So yeah, I don't know about that one either.
Yeah, I agree. That's maybe where we draw the line there. All right, we'll move on to the next question from Alex Watson. He says, more quarterback questions. This is tough week for quarterbacks. Should I play Ryan Tannehill versus San Fran or Derek Carr versus Denver?
Okay.
Ooh.
So Tannehill killed me. It's one of the reasons I'm out of the playoffs in one of the leagues, because he was just complete doo-doo. He was horrible. he was terrible. He got less than like 10 points. I'm like, gosh, dang. And then I know the receivers are banging up, but AJ Brown he's designated. I think he's gonna be designated off IR. And let's see if he's activated. If AJ Brown's activated, I like Tannehill a lot more this week.
Mm-hmm.
But Derek Carr, he didn't have that great game last week. And Derek Carr's one that's been like, he started off super hot in the season. He's kind of fallen off, right? And I don't know if it's because of Darren Waller is hurt. And obviously, Renfro's been doing this thing. But I think AJ Brown is the factor for me. If AJ Brown is activated, give me Tannehill. Otherwise, I think I'm going to go Derek Carr.
I love that. I agree that Tannehill's been just a massive disappointment in relation to what we were talking about in the offseason leading up to redraft drafts and all of that. He was such a value. He's very efficient. And he had some bad beats, right? Lost Derrick Henry, has no one around him anymore at all. He's got nobody. I mean, you can say Julio, but he, his hamstring every other play. Oh,
Julio,
No.
he's done. I think Julio's done, and it's sad to say, but I think he's done.
I know. Well, Carr has a tough matchup versus Denver, but I have much more confidence playing Derek Carr with the weapons around him than Tannehill having absolutely nobody. But I'm with you, Troy. I think I'd be willing to give him a shot if AJ Brown comes back and we get good reports that he is healthy and ready to go. If he's just kind of, if you get any, might be on a snap count, I'm not playing Tannehill.
Yeah. Nah.
All right. So not a quarterback question next, but Eli Johnson. Can I trust Jamar Chase? He has been awful recently. Eli's words, not mine, but we will get into this. Troy, can you trust him? I mean, he had 1-point-something PPR points last week. That was a travesty.
He hasn't been awful. Awful is probably a strong word. But so last week he had 2 touchdowns. So he had 2 touchdowns last week, right? So he did his thing last week. The week before, he didn't do great. He had less than, he didn't have double-digit PPR points the 2 weeks prior to that. So that wasn't great. So he's had a couple weeks where he hasn't hit double digits, and he spoiled us early on in the season. We thought he was, the next coming of Randy Moss, right? And he's probably going to be that in his career, but I think he was so good early on that we're expecting him to continue at Cooper Kupp levels, right? That's what we were expecting. And he's fallen off from his early production. So, and obviously last week, I'd be surprised if you're still in the playoffs if you have Jamar Chase, right? But I'm exaggerating. Obviously, it depends on the rest of your team, but you got to play him. I feel like last week, Boyd was the best receiver. So, and also T. Higgins didn't do anything either. So I say, yeah, you got to put him in your lineup. You're not going to bench Jamar Chase. He has way too much upside. And he killed Baltimore the last time that they played. He embarrassed Humphrey. So last time he played Baltimore, he had 8 receptions on 10 targets for 201 yards and a touchdown. You're playing him.
He crushed it. That is exactly what I was going to say here. Baltimore is giving up the 6th most points per game. 2 wide receivers since week 10. So this is a good matchup. If you made it through, as Troy already said, to round 2 for your playoffs. Is there really another guy on your bench that you'd play above him? If you're really so worried, unless you have a guy like Russell Gage who's been crushing it. Antonio Brown, if you're really willing to bet on that Antonio Brown might get a ton of targets with Mike Evans hurting and Chris Godwin out for the season. Maybe I would consider it, but I am likely playing Jamar Chase where I have him. This is a good matchup, and I think he'll bounce back here, as Troy already mentioned. All right, make sure you're submitting your questions too. You can comment them right now on YouTube. We'll get to them at the end of the show. Don't forget. Trey Collins is asking us, is Tyler Johnson a worthy flex with Evans banged up and Godwin done for the year? Shoot, I just led into the question on accident there. So if this said Antonio Brown, obviously, yes, right? Easy question. Tyler Johnson, though, Troy, what are your thoughts here?
So Tyler Johnson, so last week he got 7 targets, same for 4 receptions, 41 yards. Tyler Johnson, I think he's fine. I think really the targets are really going to be funneled through Gronk, AB, and if you even want to play Braid, I think Braid's probably going to be more involved. Tyler Johnson, I think he's fine. If you have multiple flexes, I think you can play him. I just think you just have to temper expectations, right? So in previous games this season, his best games this season, he's had 6 receptions. So week 3 against the Rams, he had 6 targets, 3 receptions for 63 yards. And then he's also had a game where he's had 5 receptions for 65 yards, right? So it's how much of a target share is he going to command? Maybe because maybe the defense is going to be focused on AB, so maybe that's going to benefit him. But at best, I think he's a flex play, but I would feel more comfortable if you're in a league that has multiple flex plays. I just don't go into the week expecting him just to completely take over like the Chris Godwin role or Mike Evans role, right? And I think, obviously he hasn't gotten this work for a reason. And Scotty Miller is probably going to be involved. I know Rashad Perriman, he's on the COVID list, but I don't know if he's going to be able to get activated before them. And also that will make things messy. So I think he's fine if you have multiple flexes, but temper expectations.
I'm with you. If it was a desperation, you're in a pinch, you're in a bigger league, like a 14 to 16 team league where there's nothing on the waiver wire there for you. Fine, but there's got to be another guy. If you're in a 10 or 12 league, a 10 or 12 team league, there's got to be another guy. And I want to reiterate that don't place too much emphasis this week or in playoffs in general. Throw away your ADPs, your draft costs, play your matchups, all about matchups. I'm not sure about Tyler Johnson being the best, like, hey, this is a great matchup where these targets are going to go straight to him. Exactly what you said, Troy, because as we just read, his best stats were 11 PPR points. Like that was his ceiling so far this year, 11 or 12 points. No touchdowns that I can see here. So his floor is super low. And he's not even, to me, like a boom or bust. He's just an average, like his ceiling is just kind of an average week. So he's a very risky play. There's got to be somebody. I would hope there's somebody else out there. But if you're in a pinch, oof, I don't really like it though. All right, Troy, I'm going to let you take this one. I'm going to let you talk that talk on this next question from Matt Z. Did Duke Johnson, running back one on the entire week for the Miami Dolphins, did he take the RB1 job in Miami?
Let me break down what this man did, right? So this man, off the street, he came in, had 22 carries for 107 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he had 1 reception for 20 yards. So here's the thing. Nobody, I don't care what analyst there is out there, nobody was telling you to play Duke Johnson. And for a good reason. He's done absolutely nothing. All season, he's been unemployed. He's been chilling on the practice squad. And yeah, originally there's a bunch of people that picked him up, me included, because Myles Gaskin had COVID. The whole running back room had COVID. And he was the only one that didn't. So that's why you picked him up. But once I saw that Myles Gaskin was active, I expected him to be used the way he was used. And also Salvin Ahmed, he was active too. So I think it's just strange. Like I did not see this coming. I will say that Myles Gaskin, I like Myles Gaskin. He's never been a great runner. He's been a great pass catcher out of the backfield. And if you notice, like if you watched Dolphins games, for those who don't know, I'm a big Dolphins fan.
We know. If you don't know by now.
The time, if you've watched the games, Myles Gaskin, he's honestly most effective when he's out of the Wildcat. That's the only time that he actually looks good as a runner, when he's the Wildcat quarterback. Otherwise, he doesn't look great as a runner. He's literally just a really good out of the backfield. So, and obviously, but I will preface this by saying it's the Jets, but still, the Jets are the worst rushing defense. And he gets the Saints this week, which is they're obviously they're pretty decent run defense. If Duke Johnson just runs all over them, then yeah, I think he's taking that RB1 job. But I just don't know how they're going to be utilized, right? We've seen in the past, earlier this year, like we've seen like Malcolm Brown do his thing and be like the RB1. So the Dolphins are weird how they use their running backs, but I would think that, and I think the Dolphins might just been frustrated by how ineffective of a rusher Myles Gaskin has been. And it's not all his fault. The O-line has been terrible, but for whatever reason, Duke Johnson was able to run behind that and looked really good doing it. I'm like the way he looked last week, you're surprised that he didn't get a job earlier. Like he looked amazing. And he looked, and I hope, I get as a Dolphins fan, like I hope that I don't care who's their RB1 in terms of just fandom. I just want the team wins. But for fantasy purposes, I want Duke Johnson this week versus Myles Gaskin. The way he was used, again, he was active. I thought like he was active. It's not like he was injured. He was coming off COVID. So was that the reason why he was used like that? I don't think so. From what I can tell, at least from my knowledge, Myles Gaskin wasn't extremely sick or whatever, and that's why he's coming off. And again, I don't quote me on this. I don't have the reports. At least I didn't hear anything about, he was struggling with COVID and maybe that's why, but it was bizarre. But Duke Johnson, he got signed to the active roster and he deserved to. So I would say, did he take it? I don't want to overreact, but if I had a choice this week to play Duke Johnson or Miles Gaskin, how could you not play Duke Johnson after that performance? So at least who's the RB1 for this week? I guess I'll go Duke Johnson. It's uncomfortable because again, we don't know for a fact, but it's hard based off last week's performance to feel very confident in Miles Gaskin after what you saw. And he got 10 carries for like 54 yards. So like he got a little work, but he had no receptions. So it's like what you love Miles Gaskin for, he didn't get any reception. So it's like
Exactly.
if you're not that great of a runner and you're not getting receptions, and Duke Johnson looked like a superstar, and this is about to be the championship, people. Look, just like Vic was saying, like ADPs, all these other weeks, you can't necessarily factor that in now. Like, you got like, what have you done for me lately? Duke Johnson just ran all over the Jets. That's what he's done for me lately. So at least for this week, I like Duke Johnson better.
It was wild. I'm sure as a Miami fan, that was weird to watch for you, Troy. I'm sure.
Bizarre. I mean, I was happy as a fan, but I was just like, I just didn't understand the usage at all. Like this dude's been on the practice squad, and like you didn't use Ahmed or Gaskin, you used Duke Johnson, but like he
that
hasn't been
was
on
the
the team all
most.
year. He's been obviously on the practice squad for a few weeks, but the fact that they had so much confidence in him to make him a workhorse, and maybe there's one with the hot hand approach, but my
Right.
God, it was incredible.
And the most surprising to me was that Salvin Ahmed wasn't taking over. If Gaskin was, down with the COVID symptoms, maybe Ahmed had worse symptoms or whatever, had to struggle with it more. We'll never know. But Duke has the hot hand. The only scare this week is New Orleans, top 7 best against the running back since week 10. So it's a much more difficult challenge for Duke Johnson if you're going to take that shot.
I feel like he's low on. Sorry to interrupt. I was saying he's I would say he's probably a low in RB2 flex play. But if Duke Johnson runs all over the Saints, then things might get messy next year. Next year, Duke Johnson probably might. That'll get all messy. But we'll see. But I'm very curious about how he performs this week.
Oh goodness, what a season it has been that we just spent about 5 minutes talking about Duke Johnson.
Week 15 was just bizarre.
All right, we'll move on to our next one. John K asks, thoughts on Miles Sanders? He looks like his old self again! Exclamation point. Yes, he does. Game yesterday was good. That was good stuff.
He was excellent. You could play a drinking game from how many times they reminded everyone that he has not scored a touchdown, which if I were the Eagles, I would get him a damn touchdown already. But I digress.
No. Just keep him and give him to Jalen Hurts.
But what I don't understand is maybe the Eagles got a lot of criticism because for the majority of the season, they just weren't utilizing him. Like there was plenty of games where like he had under 10 rushing attempts. Like it was bizarre the way that he was used early in the season because we've seen how talented he's been in his career. But last week, so week 15, he had 18 carries for 131 yards and he had 2 receptions for 15 yards. But that 18 carries, he was extremely effective. And then against the Jets, he had 24 carries for 120 yards. Like he was just balling. Like he was just ridiculous, right? He was just absolutely ridiculous. And I just don't understand again. I think he looks like his old self. I don't see why they won't keep using him like this because it's been effective. It's just mind-boggling to me that the Eagles now decide, hey, we are going to use him like this, especially because Jalen Hurts, you would think because Jalen Hurts is such a mobile quarterback, that would help Miles Sanders. And it seemed like it's helped the past couple of weeks, but it's like, he had Garner Minshew 1 week. But anyways, they should use him like this for the rest of the season. They should have been using him like this. And I'm happy that's like, okay, like now he's helping his stock and dynasty, right? Because I think a lot of people left him for that. Like nobody wanted Miles Sanders. But the way he's been playing, it's like, okay, that's the guy we know. So in dynasty and value, I think it's gone up. But yeah, he looks like his old self, and I don't see why the Eagles don't keep playing him like this.
Yeah, and the good news is I know he's got Dallas this week, so a tougher matchup for him and the Eagles in general. That Dallas defense has been
No, he has the
rolling.
Giants this week.
Oh, I'm so sorry. The Giants. Yeah. My bad. My apologies. Well, the good news is what I was going to say is he plays Washington again. So that'll be exciting to see. But the Eagles,
championship, yeah.
Exactly. The Eagles are running the ball. We saw in the first half of the season, head coach Sirianni just kind of didn't know what the heck he wanted to do. They weren't running at all in the first half of the season. And now I think I saw a statistic today. The Eagles have 5 games of over 200 rushing yards, something to that degree. They have the most on the season in the NFL. Of course, Jalen Hurts is stealing that goal line work. So it kind of hinders Sanders' ceiling because if he's not getting those touchdowns. But he is a high-end RB2 with the volume of carries he's getting and just the yards that he's picking up. He has a safe workload while he's been healthy. Keywords. Hopefully he could stay healthy here for this stretch, but I'm playing him as a high-end 2 the rest of the way. Thank you for correcting. I forgot it was the Giants.
No problem at all.
All right. Got a couple more questions, so make sure you're punching in your questions on YouTube for us. We'll answer those here in a few minutes. Question from our friend Abe. Pick one wide receiver for this week out of DJ Moore, Russell Gage, Devontae Parker, or Michael Gallup.
Okay. Ooh. So, to be honest, to me, this is an easy answer, but it feels gross saying it out loud. It has to be Russell Gage. Russell Gage, let me tell you his stat lines from week 12 to week 15. Week 12, 6 receptions for 7 targets for a touchdown. Week 13, 11 receptions for 130 yards. Week 14, I guess a quote unquote down. Week 4 receptions for 64 yards. And then week 15, 8 receptions on 11 targets for 91 yards and a touchdown. It's like I feel like Russell Gage is always one of those names that's kind of been around, lingering around for the last few years. But now, for whatever reason, it's coming together, right? Because obviously Calvin Ridley, he's been absent for his personal reasons. And we were expecting like these lines, we were expecting these to be like Kyle Pitts lines. And I don't know if because like the defenses are focused in on Kyle Pitts, that why like maybe Russell Gage is able to benefit from that. And obviously Cordell Patterson has emerged this year, so maybe defenses are focused on that. But he's been able to take advantage of the opportunity. Like it's finally come together. I think like people used to laugh. I'm like, oh, Russell Gage, you have to play Russell Gage. But now it's like, yeah, you're going to play Russell Gage. And you see names here like DJ Moore. Like I love DJ Moore, but you know, the play by Cam Newton has been inconsistent. You're not going to trust that. Michael Gallup, I love Michael Gallup, and we've seen flashes this season, but Dak has not been great this year. At least recently, he's been very inconsistent. So
we don't want to talk about Dak.
Now, based off of, and I know he's personally hurt you and your teams, but you're playing Dak really based off of just name value at this point. And Devontae Parker, he's looked really good. You know, ever since I know he's been dealing with injuries, and he's looked good since his return. And obviously Waddle was had COVID, so that's why he was out. But with Waddle back and Mike Gesicki, is like Parker's going to get his, but I think Russell Gage's the target share is going to be highest for him. So I'm most excited to play him out of these guys.
Completely agree with you, Troy. Russell Gage is my pick here too. I hit on Russell Gage in last week's Football Guys Roundtable article as someone I will be playing last week who's outside of the top 35 wide receivers on the season because he's just been balling out. His target share is very safe. He led the team last week with 11 total targets. He had 9 more targets than the next closest wide receiver. Kyle Pitts had 7 targets, in case you were wondering. Had his second highest snap share of the year last week as well. 80% of snaps. Gets a really juicy matchup this week against the Lions. They're giving up the 8th most points to wide receivers since week 10. They looked okay against the Cardinals, but I think he could do it. Give you a nice safe floor this week. And DJ Moore, I'll hit on these other guys really quick. DJ Moore was out today, I believe, with a hamstring injury. They were saying he was probably going to be a game time decision. You don't want that uncertainty for your round 2 playoff matchup. Devontae Parker, I agree with you, Troy. Him and Waddle might kind of cancel out each other's ceilings. I hope we don't see that, but Waddle was getting more targets from Tua before he was out with COVID, so we'll see. And Gallup, again, just he doesn't have that high target ceiling that Russell Gage has right now. Dak is just been horrendous.
Disappointing. Very disappointing.
5 straight weeks, he's had 13 or more points one time in the last 5 weeks. He is a quarterback. Okay, I won't go on because I will get upset. So we'll hit on our last question here before we get to the YouTube comments from Jason Smith. Do you think MVS or Callaway are good flex options this week coming off big games? So we got MVS for the Packers and Marquez Callaway from New Orleans.
How about this? I think an idea. How about we talk about each one? So I'm gonna start off with Callaway right now. So I'm gonna start with Callaway. So thinking about Callaway, right? I would be extremely worried about Marquez Callaway in the playoffs. He does have a good match against Miami, even though they have a strong secondary. They've been known to give up some, big plays to the wide receiver position. But the problem with Callaway is that his inconsistency. He's been very, very inconsistent all season. So he hasn't. So prior to last week, where he got 9 targets, he had literally 4 targets max from week 10 to week 14. The max he had was 4 targets. And he got lucky between like weeks 9 and 11 with touchdowns. Outside of that, he's been awful. He's been absolutely terrible. And again, he's for the most part is playing in games where he's only had like 1 reception, 2 receptions. So that's not something you want to rely on in the fantasy playoffs. Again, like this is, I know some people have a higher risk tolerance than others, but there's nothing about, and I don't know just because the matchup against Miami, if people think, oh, it's exploitable, but we've seen like people like little Jordan Humphrey be the wide receiver 1 on the team. We've seen obviously Traquan Smith, be like the target leader. So they don't have a necessarily wide receiver 1 on the team. And yet Marquez Callaway had a good game, but I do not want to trust him unless, again, I'm in a super deep league. I would prefer not to trust Marquez Callaway this week.
I'm with you, Troy. The targets are just not there. And even if he is getting, let's say, the 4 targets, they're mostly downfield targets. Both of these guys are downfield threats. They're not getting like the most accurate passes every time they're getting targeted. So even if you are getting 4 targets, you're likely only catching, as you already said, 1 or 2 of those. Same with MVS. Worth noting, MVS was placed on the COVID list today, and they play on Saturday. So his status is in jeopardy for even playing this week. He has 4 days to test out with the new COVID protocols, but if he actually had, symptoms or whatnot, he's not going to be able to play. If it does affect him in any way too, that's a little worrisome. I'm just not sure I want to put my trust for my round 2 playoff matchup in either of these guys. Hopefully one of the guys that we've hit on already throughout the show, that's someone on your waiver wire or someone on your bench. Amon-Ra St. Brown, if he's still out there, if you can waiver for him today, I'd rather play him, somebody like that, Gage, etc. Oh, yeah,
I would say, to talk about MVS, like let's say hypothetically he does pass the protocols. So last week he had a good game. So he had 1 touchdown, he had 98 yards, and we've seen him be involved. So like the week prior to that, he only had 5 targets, but the week before that, he had 9 targets, and he had 10 targets the week prior to that. So when he's healthy, he's been involved. And like you said, he's a downfield threat. And we've made fun of MVS in the past because he couldn't catch, and sometimes he makes mistakes and pisses off Aaron Rodgers. But we'll see. I feel like if he's active, like I trust Marquez Callaway, MVS. So I trust MVS more than I do Marquez Callaway, because at least we've seen a little bit more consistency in terms of the target share versus Marquez Callaway.
And his quarterback.
And also a quarterback too. I mean, obviously, I'd rather get targets from Aaron Rodgers than Taysom Hill. So there's so many reasons why if I had to choose between the two, it'd be MVS. But again, I think he'd be a flex play at best. But let's see if he passes the COVID protocols by Saturday.
Absolutely, absolutely. Goodness. Well, that's the end of our submitted questions. Troy, if you want to talk about our Football Guys daily email update.
Oh, absolutely. So, y'all, you need to sign up for the Football Guys daily email update if you haven't already. You should have, but if you haven't, now's the chance to do it. Every day, Joe Bryan will bring you all the latest from Football Guys news, transactions, rumors, all of the articles and shows from Football Guys staff. So, stop what you're doing. Make sure you sign up right now.
Absolutely. Well, let's get into the YouTube questions here. We'll start with Dave's not here. LOL. Aloha. Thoughts on Titans running backs with Luan and Saffold ruled out? Ooh, Titans running
So,
backs. So we got Deonta Foreman, Hilliard, and our favorite, Troy Jeremy McNichols.
yeah. So the only person that I would trust out of the backfield is going to be Deontay Foreman because,
Mhm.
yeah, obviously that the losses definitely hurt in terms of the offensive line, but his workload has been massive the past couple weeks. So week 12, he had 19 carries for 109 yards. Week 14, he had only 13 carries for 47 yards. But last week against Pittsburgh, 22 carries for 108 yards. With that type of workload, yeah, maybe it won't be as efficient, but he's a volume play. And
Mhm.
right now, what we're looking for, we don't see a lot of running backs right now that are going to have that volume. So he's the only one that I feel comfortable playing out of that backfield.
Completely agree. And they get San Fran this week, which is a tough matchup on the ground. San Fran is worse against the pass than the run. But out of all those guys, it's only Foreman. And I think I'd rank him as a top 24 running
Yeah.
back, like RB low end RB2, but it's a volume play, as Troy already said. All right. I'm just going to click this one really quick. Go Bills. Let's go.
Yeah, of
Thank you,
course.
Chris Wolf. Big game this week
Fins up.
against the Pats.
We got any Dolphins fans in the comments? Y'all can say.
Oh, I'm sure I'll find one. Probably not, actually. Just kidding. Hi, guys. This is from Wes Booth. I need a flex. Devin Singletary or Christian Kirk this week. So Devin Singletary gets New England and Christian Kirk, Arizona gets the Colts, right?
So this is easy for me. I'm going Christian Kirk.
Mm.
So Devin Singletary, he's been okay this season. Like he's had a lot of games over with double digit points. The problem is, and I know it was the snow game, so we can't. I don't know how much we can. It's not going to be the same conditions, at least for my knowledge. It's not going to be the same conditions, but obviously that was an awful game to watch in terms of the Bills versus the Patriots. So again, he's clearly RB1 for the Bills now, but I like the upside of Christian Kirk, especially with DeAndre Hopkins and IR. And I think the problem is, and he also had 12 targets last week. So it's
Wild.
like to me, and he had 12 targets and the touchdown. So give me the guy who's I guess you would call him the wide receiver one now for Arizona Cardinals. And again, I just like the upside. So and I like the offense in terms of I'd rather get the receiver for Kyler Murray than the running back for the Bills. So give me Christian Kirk.
Yeah, this is tough. I was just looking up. Indy's actually been really, really good against wide receivers since week 10. Second best, second toughest matchup for wide receivers. But that being said, that volume, the 12 targets last game, they're going to need him, Christian Kirk, to win this week. They're going to need to lean on him. Devin Singletary's been okay, as Troy's already said. But if he didn't get that touchdown last week, he's got 10 points. You know, it's an okay floor, but I think you've got that ceiling with Kirk, especially if this is PPR. I'm going Kirk here as well. Goodness. Okay. Ooh, here we go. Troy from Chris Wolf. Can I trust Duke Johnson after his performance last week? He'd be in my starting lineup ahead of either CEH or Darrell Henderson, both of whom have been far from great. Very true, Chris.
So maybe it's just me, but I like CH. I like Duke Johnson better than I like Henderson.
Henderson, yes.
Henderson, well, he's been disappointing. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if he's dealing with injuries, whatever, but last week's games, Tony Michelle looked better than him. And he had more touches. So I don't know if he's dealing with injury or what the case may be, but I'd play Duke Johnson over Henderson. So I'd have it as CEH and Duke Johnson in that case.
Totally agree. Henderson I think he only had 4.7 PPR points, and Sony had 13.5, and he had more routes ran, more touches, everything, more snaps last night. So you're worried about Henderson's workload in general. If he's not getting even goal line touches, then you can't really count on him. So I'd feel the same here, Troy. All right, Don P wants to know another Christian Kirk question. Ooh.
I think
Christian Kirk or Hollywood Brown. Christian
I
Kirk
think I
against
want
Indy and go
give me
ahead, Troy.
Kirk. Give me Kirk. Sorry, give me Kirk. Give me Kirk.
Ooh. Yeah, goodness. This is a tough one. I think I'm going to go with Kirk as well. But it's really, really close. So Hollywood has Cincy. Now, if Lamar is back, does that change your mind? You're picking Hollywood in that case.
Nah, I'm still taking Kirk
No?
because the problem is,
Yeah.
here's the thing, because we've seen it where it's like, yeah, I like Hollywood, but Hollywood hasn't had a big game for a while. He hasn't had a big
Yes.
game. It's been the Mark Andrews show. So for me, and at least like Christian Kirk, at least he has the ability to be the number one option. I think Mark Andrews he's the only one that I really have trust in terms of like a big fantasy performance for this week. And I'm looking for the most upside possible. And I think Kirk has much more upside this week than Hollywood. So give me Kirk.
I have to agree there too. Hollywood had an amazing season all the way up through, I think, week 8 or 9, and just has been on this really bad downward spiral.
Man, killing me.
I know. It's upsetting, but
Hollywood.
all right, Eric Mack, he needs 2 in the flex PPR. Hollywood, Gabe Davis, AB, Miles Sanders, AJ Dillon, Jerry Jeudy, who had a donut last week. Whew.
Well, definitely Antonio Brown is easy for me. Definitely
Yes.
Antonio Brown. After that,
I think it's Miles Sanders
Sanders.
Just for that volume that he's been getting that we discussed in the beginning of the show. Gabe Davis has been on a tear. He's had 4 touchdowns in the last 3 games. He's been great. But if he didn't have those touchdowns, his floor would not be as good. He has been crushing it, but gets New England, and we don't know if
I hate that matchup.
Exactly. We don't know if Emmanuel Sanders is going to be back yet. I'm taking that likely guaranteed volume that we've said with Sanders, and then AB should be peppered with targets for Tampa Bay. James Martin wants to know, he's got Ayuk, T. Higgins, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Sony Michel, but can only pick 3. So we have to sit.
Oh, this is easy. You're sitting Michelle. Sitting Michelle.
Yeah,
give me Ayuk, T. Higgins, and St. Brown.
Why not? Well, he had a couple blow-up games, right? But he didn't do anything last week. What makes you shy away?
Chase had less than a point last week. I'm still playing him too. And the Tyler Boyd was the wide receiver 1, right? And he's never the wide receiver 1. So I think it was a fluky week. We've seen Ayuk. He's been looking good the past few weeks. St. Brown, again, he's been incredible. Jared Goff was on the COVID list, so I'm a little bit worried about him.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing that worries me about the St. Brown pick. Hopefully he clears it by then. But we saw like Sonny Michel's looked okay, but he's still splitting time with Hendo. I still like the 3 receivers best. That's me personally.
Yeah. I mean, Ayuk let me down a little bit last week. Only 4.6 PPR points, 1 catch for 36
I know, like last week he
yards.
have a great week, but Tony didn't do well either.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I'm close between Sony and T, to be honest here. That's a coin toss for me, James. Oh, he said he had Brandon Cooks but went to COVID. Do you think Hardman? No, do not pick up Mecole Hardman.
Wait, hold on. 1 second.
Fine,
so
make your argument.
Because Hill and Kelsey are on the COVID list.
Oh, so fine. The NFL's gonna find some way to let them clear.
I'm just saying, like, if they miss the game, I know Hardman has been very inconsistent, disappointing, but if you don't have Hardman or Hill, if you don't have Kelsey or Hill, I'm gonna want to play Mecole Hardman. I'm sorry, I'm gonna want to play it. Like, will I feel super confident? I don't know, but who do they have? They have Pringle, they have Robinson, they have Josh Gordon.
Oh God.
I like my chances if those 2 are out. Hardman in that particular case. So I would at least pick him up,
Exactly.
and
I was
at
gonna
least
say that.
I don't want my opponents to use him against me. So I would at least do it for that reason. At least above all reasons, I don't want him to be used against me if those two miss and he goes off. So
I like it. I forgot about that, but I just feel like they're gonna find some way. They'll move the game. They'll do whatever the
I
heck they
would be
gotta do.
so sad if I can, because I have both of them in a lot of
Ooh,
places. Please, I hope y'all okay, but please clear the protocols.
I
I need
know.
you.
Well, I'm pretty sure Kelsey's vaccinated. I'm not sure about Tyreek, but all right, we got a question from Craig. Jacoby Myers, Jamison Crowder, or Marvin Jones for his third wide receiver
Oh
position
no, this is
this
sad,
week.
Craig.
Craig,
The
oh
fact, look,
goodness.
you made it to this week. I'll be honest with you. Oh man, I don't like any of them.
I know. And
But
hasn't Crowder not really even done much with
I'll say
nobody else
Marvin.
around
I'll
him?
say Marvin Jones because at least like even if Trevor Lawrence for some sucks at like getting the ball, he tries to get Marvin Jones the ball. So I'll say Marvin Jones.
Yeah, it's close for me for Jones and Crowder. Crowder's got Jacks. They both got each other. Crowder's got Jacksonville. Marvin Jones has the Jets. I
Give
don't know.
me give me Marvin Jones. I don't
Ooh,
like none of them, but you in this
I don't
situation, so
either.
give me Marvin.
I think I'm trying to look up what Crowder had last week.
I don't think anyone of us want to look it up. I'm pretty
I
sure it was
know.
not good. I know it wasn't good. I can tell you that. I don't know the exact stats off 10. I know it wasn't good. You can look it up real quick. But it's just it's good matches with each other, but like again, Braxton Berrios is the one that scored,
Mhm.
So Braxton Berrios, he did some things but yeah, I don't know.
Okay, he had 9 points. He had 5 receptions for 40 yards, which was much better than the week before when we thought
I
he
mean,
might get.
he did better than Marvin Jones last week. I mean, that's
Yeah,
okay.
I'm leaning Crowder for the target share for the likely
I
targets
mean,
of it,
I
but it's
think
close.
Marvin Jones to me has more upside. Again, Marvin has
Agree.
been very disappointing, but I think he recently had a pretty good game, and Lawrence missed him on a touchdown last week, so it's a tough one. But I'll still go Marvin, but I don't feel great about
Ah, goodness. Good luck to you, Craig. Sorry about that. Those choices. All right, quickly. Garrett asks Michael Carter versus the Jags or Jeff Wilson at
Wilson
Titans. Yeah, easily. Carter didn't do a thing last week. Gotta trust
and
that.
Elijah Mitchell's out again.
Yes,
Wilson.
sir. All right, we got a question. Victoria, is Josh Allen safe going up against the Pats during my playoff week? I mean, I can't sit here. We can't sit here and say anybody's safe, right? But you've ridden Josh Allen through to your fantasy playoff weeks. You got to keep
You
riding.
can't sit. I know it's scary.
Cannot sit Josh Allen.
You
No.
can't.
Especially this will be a much more even, should be a more even playing field. Hopefully those elements are not like the last time these two teams played each other, so you can't sit them. All right. James Martin says T. Higgins, St. Brown, Ayuk, Sony, Van Jefferson, and Booker.
Oh, he asked us. So he kind of switched it up. So he's asking us a similar question, but out of these, not Booker, not Michelle, Van Jefferson. I gotta look to see how did Van. How
He
well
was
did Van
okay.
do?
He only had like 5 or 6 points this past week, but that's what happens if he doesn't get the touchdown. I think we're still going with the same
I
options
think the
here,
same three.
James.
Yeah, the same three.
Yeah. All right. Wes Booth says 3 out of these: Keenan Allen, AB, Amari Cooper, DK Metcalf, and T. Higgins.
AB. So
AB and Keenan
yeah.
for sure. And then, ooh, imagine us.
Not Cooper. I don't trust Cooper, so he's
Yeah.
out.
You can't
DK's been
trust
awful.
Metcalf. You can't trust
I give
Metcalf either.
maybe T Higgins.
I know.
I
That's
think
kind of
maybe
where
T
I'm
Higgins,
leaning.
AB Allen.
I'd say close for me between Cooper and T, but yeah.
Nah, Cooper hasn't done anything
I
either.
know.
But because Dak's been awful.
So bad. So bad. All right, we're going to hit through these last ones quickly. DJ Moore, Hollywood Brown, Devonta Smith, or Van Jefferson, half-point PPR. Ooh, I hate it
DJ
all.
Moore.
DJ Moore, if he's game time decision.
Oh yeah, you're right.
It's tough. That's tough.
Goodness gracious. I don't like the game time adjustment. If he's playing, though, I think DJ Moore still.
Yeah, agreed. Oh goodness, Zerai, you missed us. We were a little early. Sorry, bud.
I know we are. Look, shout out to you, bro. You're always here with us, but we're a little early, for the holidays.
All right, we'll get these last couple. Pick 2 out of AJ Green, Ayuk, Devontae Parker, Michael Gallup, or Cooks. Full PPR. Ooh, I think I like Parker and either Ayuk or Cooks here.
If Cook's playing, I'm 100% playing Cooks.
Yeah.
And I'll say either Ayuk or Parker. I'm going to go Parker.
All right. Oh, goodness gracious. Wes says, thank you so much, guys. Football Guys is my secret weapon every year.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
No doubt, Wes. Appreciate the love.
Okay, one last. From Dr. Goober. I love your YouTube name, sir, or madam. Not quite sure. Flex, Jeff Wilson, Darnell Mooney, or Devonta Freeman in standard. Whew.
Wilson
with the volume. Freeman was scary.
And he gets Atlanta, right? Yeah, he gets Atlanta.
It's going to be good. I like Wilson this week. Goodness gracious. We just flew through those questions. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, if you're into shows like this, you're probably a pretty serious fantasy player. Of course, you have to get a Football Guys premium membership. As Wes just said, it's a secret weapon every single year. Whether you're playing Redraft, Dynasty, or DFS, we've got you covered. Just make sure you go to footballguys.com, click that orange button in the top right corner to sign up. We do the work, you do the winning. Thank you so much for tuning into the Mailbag Show this week with myself and Troy. You can find us every single Wednesday at 7:30 p.m., usually Eastern Standard, but we're a little early today. Be sure to subscribe to the Football Guys YouTube page, youtube.com/footballguys. You can also find the rest of our shows there. We got the Audible, of course, the Dynasty Show with Chad and Jordan, the Dynasty Newsletter, Power Grid, all of our Football Guys Shorts videos as well. Everyone, good luck in your leagues this week. Round 2. Happy holidays as well. Safe travels. Troy, you want to sign off with me here?
Of course. See y'all. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas, whatever you celebrate, and Happy New Year. We might be back next week. I think we should be there next week. So we'll tell y'all New Year's next week.
Absolutely. Have a good one, y'all.